Welcome, everybody, to the Empowering Process podcast. And this is your host, Gail Kraft. And today I thought what I would share with you are some of my perspectives on the feeling of being overwhelmed. You see, this is not a simple subject. It's very, very complex. And I started actually writing out a blog about this. And I thought, let's do a little podcast. So if you're ready, we're going to talk about the complexity of feeling overwhelmed.
You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
So hi, everybody. Overwhelmed. Let's kind of explore this feeling. Okay, we all get overwhelmed from time to time. Chaos, actually, it happens in our lives, sometimes on purpose. It means there's change happening typically, and chaos is the soup, the stew of change. So if you are a person like me who seeks change, who seeks to shake things up, you will be seeking to create chaos, and that's okay. So I'm going to actually read from my notes from time to time because I have so much to say. I want to be sure that I hit them all. So to simplify overwhelm, this feeling of being overwhelmed, which is sometimes lack of clarity, lack of focus, having too much on your plate, or a way of getting validation, it does this feeling disservice. It doesn't acknowledge how complex and in some cases deep-rooted overwhelm is. So I'm going to ask a few questions about overwhelmed. And these are the types of questions, if you were working with me, I would be asking, we would be exploring. So why are you overwhelmed? The answers could be, maybe you expect too much of yourself. Some of us are, the high achievers, right? The A personalities. I'm an A personality, perfection, 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 until I've learned that there's never perfection. It was a hard lesson for an A personality to learn, expecting too much of yourself. Maybe you allow distractions to throw you off track. Phone calls, social media, your friends or family popping in. Yes, your boss coming by and asking for something different while you're in the middle of something. Allowing that to happen and allowing distractions. I had a client who used to say, I squirreled this week, right? It was actually a way for her to avoid facing what it was that she had committed to that week. So sometimes it serves you to squirrel. Maybe you have no healthy boundaries. Some of us we think we have boundaries, and then we allow people to cross those boundaries, and then we get mad at them for crossing the boundaries, whereas we're the ones who set the boundaries and then allow them to cross the boundaries. So be very, very clear that, this is my boundary. This is not okay. And if you don't know what is a safe, clear boundary for you, do a little exploring about what that is, what is okay and what is not okay with you. Some of us believe that good girls or good boys just say yes, just do it. You have a feeling of being obliged to get something done. And so you might put too much on your plate because of obligations that are just made up. They're not really true. Think about that. Obligations are a mindset. Obligations are a mindset. Yes, I said that twice. This is not a mistake. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, I would also ask you to think about how long have you been overwhelmed, right? So have you been overwhelmed momentarily? Is it a recent experience, a recent feeling? And if that's true, what can you change right now to bring focus back in your life, right? Focus on what is important and put the other stuff aside. So there's an exercise that I do with my clients. It's actually from Abraham Hicks. It's called the placemat. And imagine, if you will, you're at a restaurant and you have a placemat in front of you and a pen. Take the pen, draw a line down the middle. On the left-hand side, write what I absolutely can achieve today. Absolutely, positively, I can get this done today. Oops. On the right-hand side, you leave it up to the universe. You leave it up to God. You leave it up to faith. And you list all of the things you think you have to do there. And you leave it up to the universe to take care of. And then you walk away and you leave the placemat on the table. So you've already set into your mind what you can achieve today. You don't need to bring that list with you, because you don't want to bring with you the list of things that you've given up to the universe. You've given it up, leave it there. So think about trying that for a while, especially either way, whether it's been a long time or a short time. If you're feeling overwhelmed, let's try to get some perspective into at least today, okay? And then what are you feeling is another question. So are you feeling angry, irritated, annoyed, frustrated, right? That sometimes is a result of being overwhelmed, right? People typically find themselves with a short fuse when they're overwhelmed because they're exhausted. There's too many balls in the air. They're trying to juggle too much, right? Maybe there's some negative self-talk. All of us fall into negative self-talk. You know, you might be internalizing these feelings of being overwhelmed and therefore being self-critical. What I mean by that, right? So-and-so can get this such and such done, but I can't. I'm not good enough. I have so much on my plate. I am never going to get there. I am not capable of doing this. I'm not, I can't. Listen to the language you're using, because that actually feeds into the feeling of being overwhelmed, and it drains your energy and you can do less. So let's change that language and say, I absolutely can do whatever that list is, guys, right? I know that I can achieve this, and I'm so grateful that I am capable of achieving this. Some people are always tense and on edge, and especially when they're overwhelmed, right? They have very short fuse. Maybe there's some sleeplessness going. You're having trouble sleeping at night, having trouble resting. It could be even seasonal. Sometimes the seasons are very, very heavy on us and they exhaust us. And because we're trying to slug through what we do on a normal day, we're feeling overwhelmed with not being able to do what we typically can do, we think, on a day. So figure out how to get the rest that you need. Even if it's napping, I'll do that from time to time. Take a little nap, a little 10, 20-minute power nap is absolutely acceptable. Maybe you're confused. You don't have clarity as to what is expected of you. You don't have clarity as to what you expect of yourself. And so that causes confusion. Confusion causes a feeling of being disempowered, and that causes a feeling of being overwhelmed. So why? And maybe you're just exhausted. Some people can only do so much. Their energy gets drained very, very easily, and it's not a judgment whatsoever. It's who they are. So feel it, listen to your body, and if you're exhausted, take a rest. Things will get done. The world won't come to an end if you don't finish A, B, or C today. Make a list of what you can absolutely achieve, absolutely achieve. Then think about what has triggered, and I would ask, so now you're feeling overwhelmed. What happened just before the feeling of being overwhelmed? What triggered? What's the event that led up to being overwhelmed? You might be in an unhappy relationship. Oftentimes, people who are in an unhappy relationship will be too busy to have to deal with their significant other. Oftentimes, they'll use their children as an excuse to be busy. right? I have to cart them here, cart them there. I have to entertain them. I have to help them with their homework. I have to, in order not to be engaged in that relationship. So being busy is a way of avoiding real issues, a relationship issue. And it's a relationship with your significant other, relationship with a friend, relationship with your boss, relationship with yourself. Relationships, I'm talking broad strokes. Maybe you have some physical or mental health issues. And when I say mental health, maybe you're feeling a little depressed. Something happened that has brought you down and you're trying to deal with life while just not feeling up to it, right? Or you're out of sorts in some way and you just can't keep up. And by not being able to keep up, you have this feeling of being overwhelmed. There's too much that has to be done. That's a trigger, right? Maybe you have a demanding job with unrealistic business expectation. And so maybe your boss, your leader, the person that you depend on for support and guidance is using fear tactics. Maybe they're switching priorities in and out. You don't know really what to expect every time you get into the office or you get into a conversation. Maybe direction is unclear, or maybe there's lack of support. I have had this experience specifically, and it's in more than once, and it's impossible to be at the top of your game because as you start to feel overwhelmed, your productivity goes down because you don't know what's next. Lack of nutrition. Yep, that's true, guys. It could be simply your diet. So do me a favor and check with a nutritionist and see what they have to say. You might be surprised as to the results. And always, 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 financial pressures cause insecurity and distress. And when there are financial issues, it causes stress. Baby, it causes stress, it causes fear, fear causes confusion, confusion causes a feeling of disempowerment, disempowerment causes overwhelm. You see how that works? And financial issues impact our emotional state 100% of the time, 100% of the time. And so if you have real financial issues, seek some help on how to get out of the situation. If you have imagined financial issues, seek help on how to change your mindset so that you understand that you do have money at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, right? Another cause of stress is what is changing in your life or what is not changing in your life that you want to change, right? So navigating change creates chaos and overwhelm because you're not clear as to what your new reality is going to be. And sometimes it causes chaos and overwhelm because you're juggling two realities. As you're changing to a new reality, you still have not finished let go of the old reality. Is when you change a job, when you change processes in a job. Oftentimes the old process has to keep going until the new process takes hold. So is your life, right? And that's a temporary overwhelm, but understand what has triggered your feeling of overwhelm. How can you leverage being overwhelmed? How can you leverage this feeling? Yes, and move forward, right? First of all, acknowledge. Don't try to pretend you're not feeling overwhelmed. Acknowledge how you're feeling. Say it out loud. Seek help. Whatever the reason for being overwhelmed, seek someone who can help navigate you through it. Never try to do this alone. You're overwhelmed. You're feeling disempowered. You're feeling angry. You're feeling frustrated. No, you cannot do this alone. Even if it's just temporary, seek help. Be honest with yourself and with whoever you're working with. Be honest. If you are not being true and honest, there will be no solution. It will be short-term and you will start feeling overwhelmed again. You want real solutions that are sustainable. and learn to let go of some things. You made that list, right? Right, what I can do today, what I can leave up. Eventually you will see what you've left up to the universe kind of solved itself. Start to understand what those things are so that in the future you can let those types of things go from the beginning, right? And not get overwhelmed. And hold those difficult conversations. Oh, I know that's so easy to say, but holding difficult conversations is really the only way to get to the solution. And I don't mean blame. If you're in a place of blame, then it's not time to hold those conversations, right? You have to own up to your piece of it and come to those difficult conversations with, this is what I would prefer to see, okay? Can you let things go? If you can't, again, you need to seek help for that. How is holding on to something serving you? Sometimes we talked earlier about how being overwhelmed allows you to avoid dealing with a relationship that maybe is over, but you're not yet ready to sever those ties. So how is being overwhelmed really serving you? And if it's serving you, let's get to the root of that and solve that, because we don't want that to be what's serving you in your life. How long has it been serving you? Has it been temporary? Has it been a lifetime? Has it been something that you learned as a child and you've been doing it your entire life? Time to change those habits, baby. Did you create it on purpose? I create chaos on purpose, guys. In my life, I will create chaos because I'm looking for change. I'm bored. I want something new and exciting to do. I want the juices flowing in my life at all times. But I don't create undue chaos. It is purposeful. It is focused, right? And it has an outcome, and it's short-lived, because it's creating change. Can you navigate through it? Sometimes you just have to ride it out. Sometimes you just have, when change is happening, chaos is because change is happening, you have to ride this out. And so your focus has to be in the end game. Where am I going? What's happening here, right? And how can I show up to support you getting to the other side? That is the question that I ask. That's the question you should be asking any friends that come to you with chaos. This is a complex issue. We all get a chance to experience chaos and overwhelm. If you think you can avoid it, you're fooling yourself, and we can have a conversation about that. But feeling overwhelmed and navigating through chaos is something that happens to all of us. What is the root cause? How long has this been going on? How can I navigate through this? And what does the end result look like? You don't want to live a life of chaos. You don't want to live a life of overwhelm, because that will destroy your body, which will create more overwhelm. People who are overwhelmed are in the hospital, breaking bones, are sick. They're not healthy because they're putting stress on their body for so long when they're chronically overwhelmed that they start to create chronic illnesses from the stress they put on their poor body. This is Gail Kraft, the Empowering Process podcast. It was wonderful to talk to you. And if this triggered something for you, please let me know. If this is something that you think someone else would benefit, please share it with them. Comment, share, like. I want to know that you're listening. I love you. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.